In 2021, the UK outlined its first national space strategy. Now, this document outlined the UK's ambitions in the global space economy, both in civil and defence, and what it wants to do and achieve in space in the coming years. Now, that was a pretty extensive document. So what I wanted to do in this video is break down my 10 key takeaways and the 10 things I think you should know about the UK's national space strategy. My name is Katrina Douglas. I am the CEO and founder of the Launch Strategist. I have been a marketer for 16 years and my business now specialises in helping aviation and aerospace companies launch into their next level of growth and increase their marketing effectiveness. Takeaway number one is that the UK is positioning itself to be front and centre of the new space economy. Now, in times past, space used to be the preserve of superpowers. That is now changing. We are seeing the commercialization of space, where billionaires, entrepreneurs, people outside of space traditionally are pursuing commercial endeavours and revenue generating activities both in space and space related on the ground. We are seeing space tourism, missions to Mars, activities and projects where actual workstations and work environments are being set up in space, and so much more. Now, the UK wants to be at the front of this next level of innovation when it comes to space. And so they are cultivating an environment where space businesses can start, grow, innovate, and thrive. What we're going to see in the coming years is going to be akin to the foray around space that we saw in the 1960s. We're going to see an increased focus back on space as space becomes commercialized. You know, we are in the same position that maybe tech was maybe 20, 30 years ago, when all of a sudden it went from being the preserve of a finite few to really being open to the masses. And we are at a similar time in space. The next few years are going to be revolutionary, and the UK wants to be at the forefront of that. Takeaway number two. The UK wants to develop a competitive edge in satellite technology. At present, the UK excels in satellite manufacturing and the manufacturing of spacecraft, complex payloads, satellite navigation systems, and more. It really wants to develop its leadership position in high growth areas such as Earth observation, navigation, applications and services, as well as satellite broadband. And finally, it really wants to gain early leadership in potential and emerging markets such as in-orbit servicing, the removal of debris, and space travel and space habitation. And so we definitely have grand ambitions, and there is much on the horizon. Takeaway number three is that it's really important to note that the UK space economy is growing faster than the rest of the UK economy. So I want to repeat that because that's really significant. The UK space economy is growing faster than the rest of the UK economy, which underpins the opportunities that I spoke about in the previous 2 points. So I just want to read these stats for you to give you context and the scale of this growth. So the average worker in the space sector is 2.6 times more productive than in other sectors. The UK space sector is worth over 16.4 billion per year, employs over 45,000 people, and satellites underpin £360 billion per year of wider economic activity. That just gives you a glimpse and insight into the scale of the opportunity that the UK space economy offers. Takeaway number 4. Now, for the first time in this strategy, we see the coming together of both civil and defence. Now, space is considered part of the UK's critical national infrastructure. Space is crucial to the UK's defence and security. And so it's really interesting that we see the two coming together. We cannot look at space and not look at what that means and the implications it has on both defence and civil. So it's great that actually the strategy brings those two together and what these innovations in space actually mean for national security, what it means for defence as well as civilian life. So incredibly interesting stuff. Takeaway number 5. The cost and complexity of acting in space have dropped significantly. They've fallen significantly. So we are seeing the digitization, miniaturization, regulatory reform, reusability, similar things that we saw in the tech sector 30 years ago. So where we saw massive mainframe computers move to desktop computers, and now we have PCs in the palm of our hands. You know, so the same thing is taking place in space. So what that means is that we have increased accessibility, we have more countries, we have more commercial players, there's more competition, barriers to entry have been removed. What it cost to make a spacecraft 30 years ago is significantly more, even 10 or 5 years ago, is significantly more than it costs today. And so we're seeing the rise in competition and a rise in accessibility and also a rise in opportunity, which the UK is positioning itself to capitalize on. So let's give you some context for this and give you some growth stats. So the space economy, the global space economy, is projected to grow from an estimated 27 billion in 2019 to 490 billion by 2030. So like I said, exactly what we saw happening in the tech space like 30 years ago is what we're seeing in the space economy, and the effects are going to be similar. So where we see mini satellites and the UK thriving in that area, when we speak of miniaturization, when we speak of digitization, we're seeing, you know, the introduction of AI. And so whereas it took a lot of manpower to do certain things in space and make things happen and manual processing of data, we're seeing that stuff being able to be done with AI, for example, satellites being managed and maneuvered with AI, for example. So massive, massive change, and the UK wants to be at the forefront of that. Takeaway number 6, the next generation of space pioneers. So the UK is committed to supporting the space sector with over 1 million space activities a year with young people. And so they really want to encourage the emergence and the growth and upskilling of young people for space. So cultivating the next generation of engineers, scientists and entrepreneurs in the space sector. So the UK is really committed to activating young people in this area. So, you know, in times past, young people wanted to be astronauts and they wanted to be involved in space, but over the years we've seen that diminish, and the UK wants to reignite that. Most people, most students, most young people don't know that a career in space is a viable opportunity, and the UK government really want to stimulate that and make sure that young people know that a career in space is a viable opportunity, and the government is supporting that journey. Takeaway number 7 is the need for space entrepreneurship. And this is one of the ones that we're probably most excited about, because the government realized that it's going to take private investment, it's going to take private and public partnership, it's going to take a concerted effort to invest in startups, not just established space companies. And there's a real need, not just for technical capability and technical knowledge, but business knowledge and management skills and marketing skills, so that we can turn science and technology into commercial opportunity and competitive advantage. And so this is where we come in at the Launch Strategist. This is why we help companies in space and aviation increase their marketing effectiveness, because it's one thing to have the technology, it's quite another to turn it into a commercial opportunity and competitive advantage. And that's what we specialize in here at the Launch Strategist. Takeaway number 8, space in everyday life. So most people don't know that actually space can significantly help governments support civilian needs. So everything from town planning, environment, border security, health and safety, and education, space-enabled services can support in those areas. But a lot of government purchasers don't know that, and our dependence on space in everyday life is only going to increase. So there's some awareness that needs to happen here. Again, this has to do with publicity, this has to do with marketing, not just to the public, but also within government organizations, within internal teams, because most people in governments and beyond, in commercial environments too, don't really realize the impact that space-related services and space capability has on everyday life. Everything from the navigation on our phones is space related. We're seeing things like the emergence of satellite broadband, but it has such an impact, and it will continue to have an increasing impact in everyday life. So the UK really wants to drive this home and raise awareness of this. Takeaway number 9, centres of space across the UK to cultivate innovation, one of which is the Harwell Innovation and Science Centre. And so this is where over 100 space companies reside in a walking distance of each other. And most people don't know these innovation centres exist. Harwell, for example, based in Oxfordshire, and most people don't know, but actually these are the hubs, and hubs like Harwell is where the UK want to cultivate this innovation, want to cultivate public and private partnerships, want to cultivate startups and incubators to really leverage and capitalize on the opportunities in space that we're seeing in the coming years. Takeaway number 10. Last but not least, the UK realizes that they cannot do this alone. Public and partnerships are necessary, but so are global partnerships, international partnerships with other countries to make the vision that the UK has for space a reality. So these global international partnerships are a huge focus for the UK. So since 2016, the UK has forged over 350 new relationships with international organizations across 47 developing countries. So we're going to see an increase in the global partnerships when it comes to space and what the UK wants to achieve in space, because we absolutely cannot do it alone. So I hope you found these insights and these highlights and top 10 takeaways useful. Do comment below to let us know what you think, what your thoughts are, what your favorite ones are. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. There is new content on this channel every week, and if you have any ideas that you want us to talk about, again, please feel free to comment below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.